add image or add video.
All right, we're
You
on.
would add your picture, your image. You might have had to select your
We're
picture.
on. We're on.
Negative, say nothing further. Just kitty cat me in the corner. That's a direct order. Do it now.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. We are Roll Call Black, White, and Blue for Better Relations. Today is Thursday, October the 10th, 2024. I'm here with D. I'm here with Mark, Derek. You may hear me say T-Bone every once in a while. You got Jerry, you got JT, got Rich, Jim, and we got AC. And we got a couple others that will be coming on. You got it, Jim. You got it. Others that will be coming on. So we want to start first of all with our moment of silence, and then I'll do the disclaimer, and I'm going to ask that Rich will do our statement of purpose. Amen. Amen. We want to remember all of our law enforcement officers that have transitioned, and even those who are serving in our military as well. Our disclaimer, we are Roll Call Black, White, and Blue for Better Relations. Please note the comments and express concerns made by members of Roll Call Black, White, and Blue for Better Relations herein, Roll Call, the panel, are the opinions of the individual and not offered to intend to be legal advice, recommendations, or suggestions for leaders, listeners, and or observers. This panel may display graphic videos and photographs that are integral to or to spark discussion. These videos or photographs are not intended to offend any viewer or any listener. The panel member will give notice to the audience as to the nature prior to displaying any graphic sensitive video or photograph. Any graphic content displayed during the panel discussion has been obtained and shared from public social media platforms and is not the property of Roll Call. The language used by members of Roll Call and guests is spontaneous, it is uncensored, and is not intended to offend anyone in our audience. That is our disclaimer, and Rich is going to give us our statement of purpose.
Hey, good afternoon. Once again, we are Roll Call Black, White, and Blue for Better Relations. We have four basic tenets. We're pro law enforcement. We are anti-racism. We are for equitable policing, and we believe that Black Lives Matter.
That's it, yo. That's it. That's it. Before we go on, I'm going to pray for everyone on our panel, and those who are not here right now. CJ, I think she's going to a homegoing celebration. We're praying for Ursula. Ursula is Tyrone's wife, who lost her first cousin, I believe, and her services will be on Saturday, this coming Saturday the 12th. So we're praying for the Green family, and the extended family. We're praying for Cheech. Cheech and his family. We're praying for Melba and her sons. What is it, Zai? I think it is Zai. We're praying for them on today. Praying for JT and his dear wife Orlando. And then we want to say we got birthdays coming up on the 14th. And I do this because it's one of our faithful listeners, Beverly Harrison Wells, will be celebrating her birthday on I think it's Monday the 14th. So we want to say happy birthday to Ms. Wells. And while I'm doing that, I'm also say happy birthday to my youngest brother, Dewan. His birthday is on the 14th as well. 13 years behind me. 13 years older than my oldest daughter. So and I'm 26 years older than her. So that would do that. But listen, before we go any further, I just want to promote something real fast. If you look behind Jim Cannon's screen. He has the symbol back there, Cops for Kamala. He is the one who started this and invented this one. And I really want him to say something about it, because I want those who are listening to us to also listen to what he states on here on that Facebook page. It's Cops for Kamala. He gives great detail, great information, great insight. And he trumps the lies. All right. So let me go there, and I'm gonna give it to Jim right now, and let Jim tell us about Cops for Kamala.
Yeah, hi. The idea came to me when this group put together the White Dudes for Harris, if you recall that group, and it's still growing larger and larger and larger. And I thought, we should do the same thing, Cops for Kamala. Everybody just assumes that if you're a cop, you're for Trump, and it's not true. I mean, yeah, the vast majority are, and they're all hoodwinked, and they listen to the lies, and the PBAs, they got their own private thing going. But anybody that has any common sense and any cop that does any research realizes that Kamala is the one that really backs the blue and not Trump. That being said, I did get a hold of that group, and they set me up with that Facebook page. They love the Cops for Kamala logo, and they helped me set this Facebook page. But let me tell you, what's really taken off is TikTok. Now, as you could probably tell by just looking at me, I'm not very good at TikTok. But I did have some people that helped me out with it, and it took off like crazy. I'm making video clips every day, small video clips every day. I have 11,000 views on one of them almost immediately. And all the comments, except a very few, all the comments are very positive. I've got retired cops, active cops that are commenting that it's about time. God bless you for starting this. Our voices have been silenced by the PBAs and so many others within the departments that, I think I've developed an avenue for people to come out and say, okay, you know what? We're here. We're cops, and we support Kamala Harris because we support common sense. We support dignity. We support the Constitution. We support the United States. Everything that Donald Trump does not support. In each one of my segments, and if you've seen them all, I tackle a different issue on how Donald Trump totally disrespects the Constitution. This is what we take an oath to. We take an oath to uphold the Constitution. And you're supporting a guy that wants to violate the Constitution every chance he gets. It just makes no common sense at all. The whole concept here is we have got to make sure our voices are heard. We have got to make sure that the people out there understand that when they see a police officer, don't make the assumption immediately, oh, that's going to be a Trump supporter, because it's not true. Now, there are many cops, believe me, I know it, everybody on this panel knows it, that are going to be afraid to come out and say that because they don't want to listen to the rank and file, berate them, or give them a hard time on the job. So they just keep silent. This election is too important to keep silent. If Donald Trump gets elected, our democracy is over. Police officers, listen carefully. The man has actually said that the way to control crime is not to get to the root of crime and help prevent crime. The way to do it is to give police total immunity for a day of violence against anybody that commits a crime. So that's his method of dealing with the police and reducing crime. Let the police go hog wild for a day, beat up anybody they want, and get total immunity. And I ask any police officer that's listening out there, do you really think that's a good idea?
Absolutely not.
I mean, we take an oath to the Constitution. That is so directly a violation of every part of the Constitution I could think of. And yet that's his thing. You remember what he did with the Suffolk County cops. Don't be so nice to prisoners when you arrest them.
When you're putting them in the car, yeah.
Does he not realize that prisoners are presumed innocent until convicted in a court of law? So what you're saying is, don't be so nice to that innocent person that you arrested. Against the Constitution.
Just because they were arrested.
It's mind-boggling to me how if you just sat back and listened to common sense, you know what? Do yourself a favor, my fellow officers out there. Do yourself a favor. Just listen to one of his rallies. First of all, if you can understand anything that comes out of his mouth, that would be terrific just in and of itself. But listen to the craziness that comes out of this man. I am appalled that this country still has 48% of this country still supports this clown.
Right. Right.
It's like, what are people thinking? Yeah, I know that there are basic lines of there's racism involved, and people are blinded by. I remember saying to this panel a while back, listen, the man is offering free immunity to the police department. That sounds like a pretty good thing if you're a cop. Wow, total immunity. I can't do anything wrong. Look behind that. First of all, he's a liar. He's not giving it to you. He's a liar.
Bingo.
So if you're really going to switch, to hit that switch for color in a circle for Donald Trump, you're a fool. You're an absolute fool. And I think I've said quite enough on that.
Jim,
but anyway, for anybody listening, Cops for Kamala, Facebook, TikTok, look it up. Join me today when I'm done here. I'm going to do another little clip, and I'm going to ask for feedback. So from this point on, I'm going to address whatever issues the people that are watching these things address. So they'll let me know what they want to hear.
And Jim, just remind me that each week that we do come on, I want you to have a spot to just highlight what's happened during the week.
Thank you.
That way,
and I'll get this background fixed.
Yeah, just got to shrink it just a little bit. Go ahead, AC. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I don't want to stay on this, but Jim, can you when you make your TikTok, can you address unions and police, the police unions in Trump?
I had a whole segment, a piece of one of the segments on police unions and the fact, and I addressed it, AC, as labor unions. Right. I said, what's the matter? You guys aren't labor unions anymore? Trump has said these words: I would fire anybody that does any legal job action from a labor union. So the man is against labor unions. It has always been. So for PBAs, I mean, it's just ridiculous.
All right. I'm gonna say this real quick, and I got you, D. One of our ex-co-workers, Derek knows him. He comes at me, and he comes from me from the religious standpoint of view of why I should be voting for Trump, not Harris. He calls Harris a Marxist. He says she's a liar. I said, whoa. How can you call Vice President Harris a liar when everything Trump says is a lie? Everything. He's just trying to convince me that Trump is the best thing ever. I just saw someone's Facebook page where he's just trying to he's trying. His biggest point is this, and I'm with him on this. Abortion. How he feels about abortion. I pretty much feel the same way about abortion. But we got to also remember, you shouldn't be when you vote, you're not voting on one issue. You're voting on many issues. You're voting on what's going to make your family, your community a better. What's going to help your family and your communities out. Not one issue. One issue will destroy. I mean, if it was just one issue, we shouldn't be voting at all. because both parties have issues I disagree with. But if I got to pick a party, and I'm not picking a party, I'm picking a person. So let me just change my language. I'm not picking a party. I'm picking a person who I'm voting for. All right, D, go ahead.
All right, just really quick. just so everybody knows, just want to make this and all the contact, even Jim's contact, readily accessible to everybody. So I've been copying them and putting them on YouTube also. So I just want to give everybody the opportunity to click on roll call. You look for Jim, and I'm trying to put his videos up as quick as I can get them. They're copies, so you're going to see the exact same things you see on TikTok. I didn't want to mess it up. So I'm not taking the video out of context. It's exactly what you see. So just wanted to put that out there just so everybody has the opportunity to see. And even our videos, I'm uploading them half an hour after we're done. I upload them on there. So it just gives everybody the opportunity to click on where they want to click on. Everybody's not Facebook. Everybody's not TikTok. Right. So YouTube is a pretty big one. So they're going to be there. I just wanted to say that so everybody knew where we were. We're trying to be everywhere.
And recognize Rich background, guys. Look at his background.
Okay.
I like it. All right, let's get started. D, you have the one with the Houston police, right?
Yeah.
You want to tell us a little bit about it and
really quick. There's a Houston police officer. There was a guilty verdict recently. He was accused of killing a couple during a raid. Now, there were a lot of questions about this raid. A body cam might have been turned off. There was a lot of corruption that surrounded this raid. So I'll try to give a little more when we come back on, but I just wanted to give a little. The video gives a lot of context, so I want to give it a shot. So let's take a look.
We, the jury, find the defendant, Gerald Goins, guilty of the felony murder as charged.
Former HPD narcotics officer Gerald Goins found guilty for the murder of 2 people in the 2019 botched Harding Street raid.
And we go over the moments after the judge read the jury's decision. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. I'm Daniela Guzman, a former Houston police narcotics officer charged with the murders of Regina Nicholas and Dennis Tuttle for that botched no-knock warrant raid on Harding Street in 2019. Gerald Goins was the mastermind behind that deadly January day. A jury of 12 convicting him in less than 24 hours. My colleague KPRC2 anchor Keith Garvin is live outside the Harris County Criminal Justice Center to kick off our coverage with The Bench. Keith?
Well, Daniela, Gerald Goins headed to prison for killing those 2 homeowners on Harding Street. He was taken away not in handcuffs, but still to be processed like any other prisoner in this state. Joining me here now is KPRC2 investigator Mario Diaz. We've been covering this story, sharing it now for several years. We saw 2 families finally see Lady Justice tip in their favor.
And what you saw was an emotional pendulum swing from one end of the courtroom to the other, because going into today, many people thought that enough had been presented in Gerald Goins' favor to not have him be convicted of murder. But then you had the verdict come down as guilty, and you saw the Tuttle family just express so much elation. They were happy that finally, after more than 5 years and after their family's legacy had been muddied by HPD and others, that they got the justice that their loved ones deserved. Dennis and Regina were murdered. But then you look at the other end and you had Gerald Goins, who was completely surprised by the decision. He was walking around with much confidence in the days leading up to this verdict. Today we caught him in the hallways. He waved to our cameras. He was in good spirits until they started to walk into that courtroom, and that jury never once made eye contact with him or his team. And Keith, it was then that you realized that in the courtroom, the theater of the unexpected, you had the unexpected happening in front of everyone.
Unexpected, the key term. Okay, Mario, thank you. And we have now Leticia Quinones Hollins and Rick DeToto. They are joining us live now. You two, it's been a very busy day as our legal analyst for sure. Okay, so we now know that the punishment phase is about to begin. Walk us through that. Rick, you want to go first?
So it's like a mini trial. They're going to have opening statements, they're going to present evidence, they're going to have closing statements, and the jury gets to deliberate. But the prosecution will be put on any bad acts that they have evidence of regarding Gerald Goins, and the defense will put on things like family members to say he's a good family member, and the jury will get to decide what his punishment is going to be. The interesting thing is going to be to see if the prosecution has any evidence of prior issues surrounding warrants. Did he forge any other warrants? Did he lie in any other warrants? And how that affected the people involved. So I'm really curious to see the evidence that the state puts forward in punishment.
Leticia, this is a phase
that will come out, and the evidence that will come out will speak directly to Goins' character. Anything that he's done bad in the past, as well as anything that he's done good. I suspect that we're going to see family members testify about Goins. I suspect that we're going to see people in the community that he may have helped as a police officer, someone he's protected in the past before. I suspect we'll see a lot of evidence such as that. And in the end, the jurors are going to weigh that and determine what is the appropriate sentence for him.
Their sentence was so quick and, again, so unexpected. So how do we expect that to play in their deliberations in terms of his sentencing?
I think that's going to be very interesting to see how long it's going to take them to reach a verdict. Now, I will say this. I would be worried, and the reason I would be worried, Mario, is primarily because of how long it took them to come back with the guilty verdict of murder. It didn't take them long at all. What was it, over a week or so, 2 weeks trial? And it took about 6 hours to come back with a guilty verdict of felony murder. So those jurors are upset about what they heard. So it's going to be interesting.
Yeah, Rick, what can the defense do to potentially help lower the time he might get in prison?
So they have to personalize him. They have to bring in family and friends that can tell stories about him and say, he's a dad or a good son, and tell stories about his youth and coming up to try to let the jury know that this isn't the only side of him. All they've heard is bad evidence about Gerald Goins. The defense now has an opportunity to present good evidence to personalize him and let them know, hey, there's another side to Gerald Goins besides what you've heard in this courtroom.
All right. Thank you both, Mario. Thank you. It's not commenting tonight on the trial. We do know that the Nicholas family released a statement in the last hour saying, in part, the Nicholas family is grateful for the jury verdict. The jury saw this case for what it was. This is very important to add.
Very quickly, there is still a gag order. That's why you didn't hear from defense attorneys today. You didn't hear from the prosecutors. And we do know there's a case involving the city of Houston still. So for that reason, we might not be getting any comments from the city just yet.
Okay. All right. We know you're going to be there as
Absolutely.
the sentencing phase begins, 8 o'clock. Okay. All right. Sentencing phase, you can catch up everything leading up to the conviction of Gerald Goins at ClickToHouston.com. For now, Daniela, we'll send it back to you. I'll see you tonight in the studio at 10 o'clock.
Interesting. AC?
Yes. I heard it's felony murder, so that's the underlying charge being forged document, or
difficult.
I'm not sure.
All right.
Anybody know that?
Say that again, AC. I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
I heard they said he's convicted of felony murder, which means someone died during commission of a felony. What's the felony?
Well, my understanding from and let me give you some facts that I have, because it was kind of convoluted. There's a lot of things going on in here. There was some lying on some paperwork to get the search warrant. It was a no-knock warrant. Apparently, body cams were turned off. Apparently, there were a few things going on. So the actual felony might be the warrant. Seems to me, because they made a lot of stink about him getting they're going back with other warrants. So it seems to be that there was some issue with the but there's some just another point. There's some information that the whole Houston is now going to be in uproar, because there's a lot of things that were going on with the court systems and the way they were getting their warrants. So that's why there's like a little bit of gag on the information, because it's still ongoing. This is only a piece of that big pie.
All right. Derek?
Yeah, this is pretty much for like any younger officers that may be out there listening, and people in other lines of work. Often what happens in the dark comes to the light. Whatever you do for a living, try to perform your job in the most ethical manner possible, because you don't want to end up doing life in prison, because you made some horrific decisions, and they may not have seemed horrific at the time that he made them, but obviously there was a chain of events that caused them to be horrific. And obviously when you're younger, and he's not a young guy, he looks like he's in his 50s, but when you're younger, you tend to make some bad decisions. Sometimes the decisions are a little bit hastier, but if any young people out there listening, just try to do things in the most ethical manner possible. That's it.
Well, he got 60 years. The verdict was out 2 days ago. 60 years is the penalty.
Woo! He's gone.
So he's in jail for life.
Yeah.
Wow. D?
And a push further on what Derek said. He's absolutely right. And we were always taught, I'm sure you guys were taught the same, that you were, the job is going to be on the line for anything you might do, but also you're going to be on the line for anything you might do. I think there's this idea that police officers are always protected by the job, and I never worked like that. We always knew that whatever you did personally, you could be held responsible. And I think that's important for new law enforcement officers that we all have the opportunity to teach. You're going to be held personally responsible. Anything that you do, I know the old boys gang and go with the way they did and what works and the blue line and all these wonderful things. They're wonderful things. They're great things. But you have to have the mindset of ultimately I'm going to be held responsible. And I think when I was out there for my 32, that's how I kept out of trouble. Even though everybody was going left, I'm not popular. I'm not going to be the fun guy. But, at the end of the day, they're going to hold me responsible. And I think with anything that you do, not just law enforcement, keep that in mind. You're ultimately responsible. All the excuses in the world, excuses are a wonderful thing, but they don't really work for you. This law enforcement officer got 60 years. I don't think he looks like he's 60 years old, so I don't know if he's going to live another 60. So that's a life sentence. I know the mindset is he's a law enforcement officer and he's trying to get the drugs off the street, but you can't let that overwhelm the rules, the law, and what's right and your responsibility.
Absolutely. And you said something about excuses. It reminds me of when I was pledging my fraternity, we had to recite a thing called excuses. Excuses are tools of incompetence which builds monuments of nothingness, and those who specialize in using them are seldom good at anything else. So we had to say, anytime you came up with an excuse, you had to repeat that. Excuses. Don't come in here with any excuse. None. Zero. Either do it or take the heat. JT?
Yeah, good evening, everybody. I'm not snitching, but I am telling you the truth. When I was in the department and the narcotics division, we had a detective to obtain a search warrant for a house that wasn't involved. And I'm not saying it was racial, but I was the only black guy in the unit. Nothing happened to that detective. We hit the wrong house. I think we put up a new door for him, and that was the end of it. Nobody got shot and killed, but it's a shame that had to happen. But it does happen. It does happen. That's it.
Well, JT, since you said that, I'd like to just say that now. As easy as that was for the police department just to wash their hand and buy a new door and keep on moving, now, what about the family? What about the household? All those in that household that had to deal with someone breaking into their house, doing a warrant, and they know nothing's going on. They know.
Yeah.
It just seems to be a little unfair. As far as I'm concerned, just seems to be a little unfair that's it. And just walk away like, sorry, we made a mistake and keep on going. And I know mistakes and errors do happen, but guess what? When they do happen, someone needs to pay for them too.
Someone should be accountable.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Cheech and D.
Yeah, you guys are all hitting the points. Derek said it from the beginning. If you're doing your job correctly, you got nothing to worry about. But, in all honesty, I think, and this is me personally, that sometimes like Derek, like you guys said, you want to get bad guys off the street. You want to get drugs off the street, and you take shortcuts that you shouldn't. And here's consequences of it. They can lead to other things, and it's just not worth it. I think some guys have good intentions, especially with search warrants, because you get frustrated and that somebody's out there doing bad things or selling bad things to kids and to our community, and you want to stop them, but then you go about it the wrong way, and you can end up getting jammed up. So we've said it from the beginning in this group. If you're doing your job right, you got nothing to worry about. and this is a prime example of just doing everything by the book, and I mean, it's unfortunate what happened, but there was no need for it.
All right. Thank you, Cheech. D and Derek.
Just real quick, I just wanted to say something about writing search warrants. I've had the opportunity to write a few. You have to go before a judge, and these judges are rough when you're writing a search warrant. It's not so easy to do. And I'm saying that because if you got this much wrong information, you got to do a whole bunch of lying to get this much information past the judge. Sometimes I used to think they're trying not to give you the search warrant more than they're trying to give it to you. So I'm just saying, from a person that used to write them, they send you back. Also, when you're executing a warrant, I want to just discuss twofold. Prior to you executing that warrant, you've got eyes on everything. Eyes on the people involved, eyes on the door, eyes on, you're verifying information. Everybody should be as well versed in the information. So somebody can say, hey, that don't look right. You said red door, this is a blue door. You said it opens in and it opens out. You said it opens to the right and it opens to the left. There's so many eyes on it. And JT said, do your job. Do your job. It's nothing wrong. I'm, as a writer of a search warrant, if you tell me that might not be the right door, I'm not upset with you. I'm glad you told me that. You know what I mean? And the second thing is when you're on the stack, which is those guys that go through the door first. When you're on the stack, and I've had the opportunity to be a shield man. Most of you guys know the 6-man stack. Shield man's the first guy through the door. You're questioning this door, that door, this step. Executing a search warrant isn't fun like it looks on TV. It's not. You're making sure you get the right one when we go into the house. Is it the right house? Is it the door? Do we take the door off the hinges? We talk warrant and we talk no-knock warrant. When you have to announce yourself, no-knock, you do not. Just for everybody understanding, it's not such an easy thing to do. And I'm only saying that because if this much stuff was intentionally done wrong, there's a lot of people involved. It's not just, there's no way one guy can tell all of these lies in a search warrant and it gets past the other 9, 10, the supervisor, the guy on the street, the guy going through the door, the guy doing surveillance. So many eyes are involved and everybody has the opportunity to say, no, we ain't doing it. Nope, you're wrong. Because nobody wants to do it after somebody says something you're doing is wrong. So I just wanted to bring that out. It's not such an easy thing for this guy to get 60. It's bad. A lot of things went bad. That's all I want to say.
I just want to know why is JT smirking the way he's smirking when he's listening to you.
He knows.
I got so much to say.
Well, JT, shout it down, man. I want you to say it too. You go after Derek, JT. So I'm gonna let Derek go, then you, JT.
All right, yeah. I thought it was interesting that D said it's not the way it looks. Most people's perspective is based on what they see on television. And police work is nothing like you see on television. As a matter of fact, I don't watch police shows because they're so far off base. It's too unbelievable for me to sit there and watch it. But police work, I shouldn't say police work. Criminals play a cat and mouse game. Okay, if the cat's around, the mice aren't going to do what they're going to do. But their job, if you're a criminal, your job is to get over. And your job is to get over on other people and the system. Fighting crime, from a crime fighter's perspective, is impersonal. When we're out there riding around in a car or on a foot post, on a beat or whatever, we're not thinking about any particular person. It's impersonal to us. So when people commit these crimes, it's not the type of thing where an officer is like, he's hell-bent on getting this one person and that's all he's thinking about. That's one of the things you see on TV. And it's not like that. So we have to realize that officers aren't after just any old body. Obviously, if someone does something in front of you, if you're conducting a warrant, then you know what you're going after. But cops can't take things personal. And when you start to take things personal, you start to do things wrong. Because then you act under your purview instead of under the purview of the department that you represent.
Ah, boy, oh boy, that's a lot, Derek.
Yeah.
That's a lot, and you just said a lot. JT, let's hear you, because you were actively involved in what we're talking about.
Exactly. And I'm gonna tell you about 2 search warrants we did. One cost a dog his life, and one cost a female non-participant. She was scared to death, put it that way. We did a search warrant. The door went open. We busted it open. I was like third or fourth guy. Most of our guys in our unit, they don't give a shit about whatever. They want to get the drugs so they can get the court time so they can get the money. I could give a shit less if there was drugs in the house. Not that I wasn't wanting drugs in the house, but drugs are gonna be there. A human being come out of a closet, you know, and you worrying about the drugs, the crack, coke. Well, the door went open. There's another bedroom right behind the door. Everybody went past that bedroom. Nobody looked in that direction. I come up, I hear a dog barking. I look, here comes a pit bull right at me, no chain, and it's a tile floor. So he got speed coming at me. He took 2 to the head. I put him to the curb. That was it. There was another time we did a search warrant. There was a guy sitting at a table and a window was behind him. He was the guy we was looking for. There were girls and guys playing cards at the card table. I'm about the third or fourth guy in again. The guy goes for the window. I go for his ankle. The gun goes off. Right past the girl's head, maybe a foot. She was scared to death. I don't blame her. The guy got out the window. They caught him outside. But sometimes it's not like TV, and sometimes it's exactly like TV, where I worked. We never critiqued a search warrant, what went wrong, what should have happened, what could have happened. Never did that.
Okay.
That's the truth.
Well, listen, your truth is the truth. And everyone has different experiences. I know I used to do it when we used to do the raids early in the morning, years ago. Remember that, Mark, when they used to have the raids and they would ask you to come at 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, you go do the raids, and most time you don't even know what you're doing. You're just going to this house and that house because they know what's going on. They know who we're looking for and all that stuff. But it's definitely not television, that's for sure.
And they didn't prepare us.
No.
Those on patrol, they didn't prepare us. They kept the information. I understand, and I'm sure you did as well, us patrol guys, that, you know, we were limited to all information.
Mm-hmm.
But as far as tactics, you know, we should have all been schooled better, prepared better, and unfortunately we weren't. But fortunately, for the most part, there weren't incidents.
Right. Listen, let me just get this question in. Marcus wants to know, can someone elaborate on the need for a no-knock warrant?
Okay, maybe I can take that. Just or maybe Kyle might want to. I'm just gonna give a little quick verb. When a no-knock warrant is when you're worrying about people that are destroying evidence. When there's evidence that you really need for the case, or we're expecting to be in there, you just go in. It's not you're not going to announce yourself. You're not going to make a big stink because you actually want the element of surprise. The other warrants, when you do, you have to knock on the door and announce yourself first. Give them an opportunity to open the door. The no-knock warrant, not so much. Yeah, that door's coming off, and you want to be in the furthest recesses of that residence extremely quickly, because not only evidence, I know I said it, evidence, and here we go with the evidence again, but there could be lives at stake. So if we knock on the door and say police, somebody could lose their life. So that to me is the difference. If anybody else wants to offer anything different, maybe something I forgot. AC, something?
I'm gonna get AC, but
Okay.
I just want y'all to know that Kyle's on it because she was answering it as you were speaking it. So thank you, Kyle, for even paying attention to what's going on Facebook Live. AC, go ahead.
The second part added to there's a dangerous situation also. If you're going in to get guns, that'll be no.
All right.
And they got to throw the yayo in the toilet.
That's that's the evidence, yeah.
Okay, Marcus wants to know what's the warrant for, and he puts on there a nickel bag.
Okay, let me help you out, Marcus. In order to get a warrant, you have to. How can I say this? Anybody's ever written one, help me out. You have to give them so much. They're not going to give you for a nickel bag. They're not. They wouldn't even give you for one gun. You have to articulate that your investigation led you to here, and there's going to be this much that you need a warrant for. You're not going to need a warrant for a nickel bag, Marcus. You're not going to need a warrant for a lot of things, so they're not going to give it to you. You wouldn't even apply for it. So, I know it's like you think people are applying for warrants for small things. You don't even get in the door. The judge won't even hear you when you talk about, if I phoned in and said, I need a warrant for a nickel bag. First of all, I'm going to get left off the job. And second of all, he's going to kick me out, and he may hold me in contempt because they're not going to even entertain that. So it has to be something serious and or like AC was saying, something imminent.
Let me just say this real quick, and I'm just going to go back to you, D, for another video. But I know sometimes people think that the police will ask for a warrant, and they're just going to automatically get one. I think D explained that earlier, that it's not like that. You go through so much to get a warrant. And you know, judges don't want to just be handing out warrants just because you want one. You know, you're going to have some type of what is this? Do you need probable cause to get a warrant?
Yeah.
Absolutely, right?
Yeah.
So it's almost like making an arrest. You need the probable cause to even get a warrant.
Yep.
But you're not talking to just Joe anybody. You're actually talking to a judge.
A judge. You have to stand before the judge.
Right. Okay. That's all I wanted to say. I got two hands up. I got Jim and Mark.
Yeah, I think what happens sometimes is that the warrant is written for a substantial reason with probable cause. And on some occasions, it doesn't pan out that way. They go in there and there is only a nickel bag, or there's nothing. So sometimes, and then the press makes a big deal about it. So sometimes our listeners may think that the warrant was written for nothing or a small thing, but that's not the case. The case is, as Dee said quite correctly, you need a lot for a judge to give you a warrant, especially a no-knock warrant, especially nowadays, even more so. So it's a valid instrument. You know, you never know how it's going to turn out. They could have got rid of all the evidence before you went in. It happens.
Yeah.
So you can't look at it as what the result was. To make a statement that the warrant was written for a small issue. That's not accurate.
Okay, listen, I got a lot of hands, y'all, but I gotta do a skip on most of y'all real quick because I got Kyle on there, and I don't want her to lose her thought as a boss in the DA's office.
Thank you for taking me. Good afternoon, everybody. Sorry I'm late. I just wanted to add to how Dee is explaining it is he's right on point, and Jim, his comments as well. You know, sometimes if the evidence is stale or old, you're not going to get that warrant. You have to demonstrate that you have, you know, credible information that what you're going after is going to be there. And, you know, so when Dee was describing officers staying on the house until they get the warrant, making sure that no one's going in or out, or you're making note of who's going in or out, and keeping eyes on your target and describing the property well so that the judge is assured that you're going to the right place. All that is true, and the evidence has to be current. It has to be. It can't be stale, old. I found out yesterday. No, that doesn't work. A judge is just going to say it's too old, it's stale. You haven't demonstrated that what you're going after is there and likely to be there when you go through those doors. So Dee's description, Jim's description, from my perspective, is right on point.
Thank you for addressing that. Mark, Rich, D, and JT.
Yeah, I just want to address this from, I mean, everybody's on point. So I just want to address it from another standpoint. That judge who signs that warrant, he's liable. So if the officers come to him and he has a half-assed warrant, and he says, you know what, I like you guys always do a great job. I'm gonna let you go on this. And something goes wrong, he's liable. So, that's the other thing where, D pointed out that the judge is not just going to sign off. You have to meet the criteria, because he's liable. Even though the cops do it, and they've supposedly done the research, his name is going on that warrant. So, his whole credibility is riding on that warrant. I just wanted to also expand on that system. It's not always just about the cops. There's other people involved, and they're responsible as well.
Okay. All right. Cheech, I sent you a message. Rich?
Yeah, I just wanted to say real quick, sometimes you have those warrants where you have to get it right away because you don't want to be stale. And other warrants, it's actually an investigation, especially narcotics. You start from doing buy walks where you do a drug buy, you let the suspect walk. Then you get to the point where you have a buy bust. And because you're trying to get to the big head, so it's a wall case. You have the little people that are in the organization, you're following up ahead, and then you're trying to get that main guy who's in charge of the operation. It's more of a RICO type thing. And then you get that warrant when you need to get the warrant. So all cases aren't the same, but that, there's a lot of intelligence that goes into some of these cases before you get the warrant, and then boom, you make a big bust, or where you believe there's going to be a big bust, sometimes you don't get what you think you're going to get. But there's a lot of intelligence involved. That's the other side of the coin. People put a lot of man hours in to build this case to get to that top guy, or his lieutenants or whatever, in that organization. So it's not like TV. It's more well prepared, thought out. A lot of guys do a great job, and that's all I have to say on that.
Okay. D and JT.
Just really quick, I keep coming back because I don't like to talk too long. I want to give everybody a chance. So I just want to say a couple of things. Understand, when you're applying for a warrant, you're being questioned by a judge. I know some people think you're just going to some guy and asking for a warrant, and they give you a warrant. The judge actually questions you. You bring your entire case folder or case box before him, and he goes line by line with you. And if he don't like something, you don't get your warrant. I just wanted people to understand that. And also, the other part of that, after you execute that warrant, it's not over. You have to do a return to the judge. You have to take everything you found, everything that happened, and I'm going to tell you, help me out, Kyle, it better match up with what you said. You understand what I'm saying? It better match up. If you said A, B, C, and D, he wants to see A, B, C, and D. And if E and F came as a result of that, he's still side-eyeing you a little bit. So I want you to understand there's somebody in control of this thing other than that person. That's why I said earlier, in order for this to take place, a lot of lying got to be done. A lot of moving and shaking. You're culpable in a lot of ways, because I don't see how I could have lied to a judge. First of all, listen to what I said. Lying to a judge. I think AC asked me what the felony was, right? You have to actually go and lie in front of a judge, who is the only person, by the way, help me, Kyle, that can say go to jail without any paperwork, and you stay there till he says come out. People don't understand that. I watch little court shows, and they're talking to the judge, and I'm going, you realize this guy can put you in jail and never be seen again? So you got to understand the level of the person you're speaking to. So your ducks, if you will, have to be in a row. Your paperwork has to be on point, and you're going to have to answer to every question afterwards. You got another interview when you come up with this evidence as to why you found, where you found, and what you did, and the judge is going to hold you accountable. And I don't know whether most people know, if you get caught screwing up one time, they're just never gonna. You're not even gonna get past the DA. Am I right, Kyle? You're not. They're gonna look at you and they're gonna go, not that guy.
Let me add this, and I want to bring in Donald Coleman's question real quick though. But just for those who are listening, don't think that every police officer has gone for a warrant, because I've never done one myself. I wouldn't even know the process of applying for a warrant. So it's not just like that's what everyone does. That's not what it is. That, like Derek said on television, the cop's like, well, I'll go get a warrant, and he comes back with a warrant. Well, it's not that simple. It really is not that simple. Other thing is, I think Kyle may have answered it. Kyle, did you just answer Donald Coleman? Oh, okay. Donald Coleman just said, so what happens to the judge if a warrant he gives turns out to be bad for whatever it was given for? That's a real good question there.
We've seen it, right? We've seen judges get in trouble too. Everybody's human. I mean, judges have gotten in trouble too. If they make a mistake or they do something they're not supposed to do, everybody's accountable. You're accountable for what you do. I don't know. I've seen it. I don't know whether maybe people watching haven't seen it, but I've seen judges. I've had to go help walk a judge out. It's not pretty. It's not cute.
You know, and it's a good question because I've never seen it, but I see Mark's hand went up and Jim's hand went up.
Who's up first?
You, Mark. You were first.
Yeah, I just want to say, so, I said the judge was liable, and if it goes wrong, then they're going to do an investigation, and they'll find out, were the police wrong? Did they misrepresent what they had? Or did the judge make a mistake? And then whoever is wrong has to pay the piper. And like, Dee said, he's seen judges get escorted out. So whoever's not doing their job is going to have to pay for it. And the proverbial shit will hit the fan when that happens. And I want to say, Dee, I just want to expand on what Dee said so you listeners understand. If Detective Butler, goes before the judge, Judge Rich, and says, yeah, we got the drugs and we got guns in there. We need to go in there, no knock, blah, blah, blah. And then all of a sudden, they make a prostitution arrest. It's a prostitution house. No drugs, no guns. Somebody's got some explaining to do.
Wow.
So even though you might have found something illegal, it wasn't what you applied for. And that judge is not going to be happy. And like they said, once you mess up with a judge, and judges talk to each other, judges know. So now you done messed up with one judge, but guess what? You done messed up with all of them. Yep. You lost your credibility as an officer. Once you do that with the court system, and Kyle can explain this much better than I can, but once you as an officer lose your credibility with the courts, you're basically done. You can't even give a traffic ticket.
Well,
because your testimony is questioned.
Haven't we witnessed that with our department, without calling names, where an officer was not allowed to testify at the DA's office?
Absolutely.
All right. Yeah.
More than once. He
lied one time. He lied
more than once.
Oh, okay. But I know
more than one person. Well, more than one person.
Right. But I know if the DA's office find that you're not credible, or whatever you've done in the past will come up and affect another case, you out of there.
There's qualifications to be a police officer, and you always have to meet those qualifications.
Mm-hmm.
It can be something just as simple as if you lose your ability to drive a vehicle, guess what? Because you're supposed to have a New York State license in order to be an officer. And if you lose that, it's going to be a problem.
I hate to keep doing this. I got you, Jim. And JT. I didn't forget you. I got it written down. I did, D. But Marcus, are you trying to? I don't know what you're trying to do right now, because he keeps questioning this probable cause issue, and I think Kyle addressed it as best as you can address this thing. Probable cause is a serious standard that police officers must go by. So now he says probable cause is a legal standard when you have no evidence. How can it be a legal standard with no evidence? It makes no sense at all. I mean, that I don't know if you're playing games with us now or what, but it can't be a standard for no evidence.
You're on mute, Mark.
All right, Marcus, I'm gonna leave you alone because I can't waste time with that. Let me go with Jim, and then I'm gonna come to JT.
Yeah, I'm gonna. I think I have this right, but Kyle, correct me if I'm wrong. I do believe that prosecutors and judges are immune civilly from their actions, so their accountability is different. I don't want anybody out there thinking that their accountability is the same as the police officers, but who have qualified immunity. But that doesn't protect a judge or a prosecutor from criminal prosecution if they did something criminal in this. If they knew that that information they were putting together was not correct and they didn't care, something like that, then that would be accountability. The other accountability, if they just were sloppy, is that, and Mark brought this out, is that they are going, that's going to be held against them in their area, in their world of being a judge. So they do have bosses too. Judges do have bosses. And, I don't know if there's internal discipline, but there probably is. So the accountability, I'm just trying to bring out the idea that the accountability factor is different for a judge than it is for a police officer.
Okay, but there's still accountability. JT, sorry to hold you so long.
No problem. I'm just going to go through the steps to how you obtain a warrant right quick. A CI is a confidential informant. He has to be signed up by the department that you're working for. He can't be just some guy off the street you say he's a confidential informant. You got to sign him up, register him, they call it. He'll come to you and tell you they're selling crack and cocaine out of 69 Grove, okay? He'll go in, you'll monitor him going in, come out, get the cocaine, you take the cocaine, you invoice it, send it over to narcotics, and they analyze it and all that good stuff. Now, you get a second informant, maybe from your partner's team. He goes in there and buys the same, you do the same procedure. Then you go to the judge and tell him you want a warrant. You had two different CIs go into a place, buy drugs, got drugs. Now, if you go and do the search warrant and there's nothing in there, that's bad. That's why you send a CI in there right before you're going to do the warrant to make sure they're still selling. Because sometimes they do run out. Unbelievable, but they do run out. So you hit the house right after he comes out. That's how you obtain a search warrant. Judge is going to ask you, well, what time of day you want to go? You want to go in the morning? If there's kids, you like to go during the day because they're up and about. You don't want to wake a kid up and you accidentally shoot him thinking he's a crook coming out of the bed. I hope that answers your question, Marcus. And that's probable cause. Once you make two controlled buys, you have the right to articulate it to a judge. He's going to ask you all sorts of questions. But
all right. See, these are stuff. Now, I've been in law enforcement for over 20 years. I have no clue how that works. You know what I'm saying? I have no clue. That's why I'm wondering where's Marcus coming up with all this. Well, you know what? I know where he's coming from. He's looking at TV. He watches a lot of police shows.
Yeah.
So that's where he's coming from. But in real life, it's not. And Derek said it up front. It's not the same in real life.
Definitely,
it's not. Listen, when I used to work in the school, I used to tell myself, listen, in the school, there were rules. I don't deal with rules as a police officer. I deal with laws, So so you had to, you break a school rule that doesn't involve me as a police officer. What involves me as a police officer is breaking the law, not your school rules. You were walking on the right side instead of the left side, or you walk on the left side instead of the right side. Well, I have nothing to do with that. JT?
I just got a question for D. You ever execute a telephonic warrant?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I never did it, never had to apply for it.
And every standard, you got to multiply it by 100 because there's so many privacy. You're not going to get it. We all know you're not going to get it. You hope to get it. The only ones you really get is when there's something imminent. Somebody's kidnapped. You might get it. But if you're not going to get it. They're going to question you and say, no, go back and get more. So.
What is that, guys? What are you talking about? What is that?
A telephone warrant, if you will.
Telephone
warrant to get telephone information.
Oh.
Yeah, it's not the expectation of privacy is so much that you know.
No,
Oh, is that the same as tapping a wire? Just tapping
Different.
it on?
That's different.
Is this like confiscating all of Eric Adams' people's phones?
Yeah. Like that's why we all go, ooh.
I'm just saying, sorry.
Good. No, good one, Jerry. Good one. Good. You're thinking. You think. Kyle, go ahead, Kyle.
No, I was just going to say that I've actually done a couple of telephonic warrants. They do have to be recorded and then transcribed. So they really mirror like a paper warrant. It just cuts down on time. And basically you may utilize that when there's some urgency, right? Or exigent circumstance, which you're really in a hurry and you want to get what you think the person is there or the evidence is there and there's some need to do it right away. So yeah, this is not easy, and a judge can easily say no if they think that you don't have enough, if you're not answering the questions properly or with enough information, or you're standing on shaky ground, you're probably not going to get that warrant.
What you don't want to do is wake up a judge 3 o'clock in the morning to sign a warrant. You don't want to do that. Right, Kyle?
Right. So if it can wait, you wait. If you can hold it until, have somebody sit on the house or whatever you're trying to search, and wait it out until, daylight, until you do that. Yeah.
Rich.
You have to, and it has happened, and you're calling the law secretary to wake up the judge, and it's a whole megillah. But if you can wait, you wait.
Rich, get your boy Marcus. He's talking junk again. He says, Rev, everything I'm learning is from roll call. Lie. It must be Trump's boy. Because that stuff he's talking about is not from roll call. I don't know where he's got that from, but that was not, you didn't learn that from roll call. And I've learned cops are good at finding excuses for other cops. Halfway true. Halfway true right there. Jim, I see your finger and I got to go to the next video.
Yeah, just for clarity, the telephone warrant is not for telephone records. Telephone warrant is the cop is on the street, he has a situation, he needs a warrant to search this car right here, right now. He calls the prosecutor who's on call, right, Kyle? There's always a prosecutor on call. He calls the prosecutor on call, give him the facts or her the facts of what it is. That prosecutor then has to call the judge's secretary, wake up the judge at 3 o'clock in the morning. So trust me, and I'm sure she'll back me up, that cop better have a lot of good stuff for that prosecutor before she goes out and makes that call to get it. But the judge can okay the warrant.
Right.
And then it goes back to the cop that's at the scene at the car, and then they could conduct the search.
No, nothing about that.
They're probably pretty rare.
Yeah. I never.
You have to see something but can't get to it.
Yeah, because I mean, even the example I said, if I'm the judge after breakfast, go back to sleep.
I gotta at least have my cup of coffee, right? And I'm not ready for that.
All right, D, what's next?
So I'm gonna call an audible. I know we discussed something else, but just the way the conversation's going, this might be a better conversation. I'm gonna go to California, where the police officers have kept their past misconducts confidential. Let's take a look.
For decades, California police departments that want to sign officers' misconduct have agreed to let them resign and to keep the bad behavior confidential. That's in order to avoid potentially costly and time-consuming lawsuits. But as a result, officers with bad records have landed new jobs in law enforcement, and their new employers have no idea of their pasts. That's the finding of a 5-year-long investigation by the San Francisco Chronicle and the University of California, Berkeley's investigative reporting program. Katie Roosh of the investigative reporting program was the lead author of the articles that appeared in the Chronicle. Katie, you say that these are called clean record agreements. How many of them were you able to find in your investigation?
We were able to find over 300 involving nearly 300 officers. So some of the officers had multiple. But I think really what the major finding is that we found them in so many different agencies across the state, 167 agencies across the state of California finding these agreements.
And what sort of misconduct are we talking about? Did you find in these records?
That was a big question when we started the investigation. Was we were wondering, is this just minor mistakes that police are making and then getting these agreements to clean their records? And what we found was no, this is serious misconduct, everything from dishonesty to sexual assault to excessive force.
And there's also a wrinkle. There were some cases you found in which they sort of short-circuited the investigations into their behavior by claiming a disability. And talk about what would happen to those officers.
Yeah, those were really interesting cases. So in some situations, an officer would be accused of misconduct, and during the misconduct disciplinary proceedings, they would claim that they were injured. They had a back injury, they had PTSD, and then they would end up with these agreements that not only whitewashed their misconduct records, but then also guaranteed them a disability pension. So a pension that's meant for an officer who can no longer work, who is so incapacitated that they can no longer do their job. Now these officers are also getting that benefit as well, which is a huge benefit, a yearly salary for the rest of their lives with huge tax benefits.
And paid for by the taxpayers.
Absolutely, paid for by the taxpayers.
Is this just a California thing, or is this happening in other states as well?
Well, our investigation focused on California. California employs the most peace officers in any state in the country. But what we found when we were looking at this, and we couldn't ignore, was that there are agreements like this in almost every state, from Texas to New York to Illinois to Idaho. We found these types of agreements.
You talked to the police chiefs of not only the departments that these people left, but also the departments that they went to. What did they tell you? What was their reaction to this?
It was some of shock and disbelief. I had multiple conversations with some police chiefs and sheriffs who couldn't believe that they didn't know about the misconduct at a previous department. And on the other side, I talked to many police chiefs and sheriffs who just sit awake at night worrying about these agreements that they made that allowed officers who they don't think should be working in the profession to continue to carry a badge and a gun.
And you also wrote that some of these police chiefs who worry about this, it wasn't their call. The decision was taken out of their hands.
Absolutely. And I think that was a really interesting part of this was the involvement of the insurance companies. So when it gets to a certain step in the disciplinary process, sometimes the city's municipal insurance gets involved and then they have ultimate settlement authority. So even though the police chief, the sheriff, the city wants to fire that officer and make sure that their record is not whitewashed, the insurance company comes in and says, nope, you don't get a say.
And you wrote that in California, there's an organization that actually advocates the use of these agreements. Who's behind that organization?
So in California, most peace officers belong to a union. And as part of that union, they pay dues to a legal defense fund. And so they have this group of lawyers who they have access to. And the one that we found that was primarily working in the state of California was an organization called the Peace Officers Research Association of California, PORAC, and their legal defense fund. They have a group of attorneys, and that legal defense fund was involved in almost every agreement that we were seeing in California.
There's a relatively new law in California that requires the disclosure of police misconduct and gives a commission the power to ban officers from being police officers. How does that law mesh with what's going on?
I think that's really interesting. That law took effect last year. And so we're still seeing how attorneys and police officers are navigating that with these agreements. But what we found from our investigation is that law wasn't aware of these agreements, doesn't specifically address these agreements, and also only addresses a specific type of misconduct. So there are only certain types of misconduct that are reportable to the state, that are required to be reported to the state. And so there still leaves this loophole for officers to kind of get around this law.
Is anything being done to close that loophole in California?
Right now, the legislature in California is not in session. They reconvene in December, but there are a lot of conversations that I'm having, obviously, because of our investigation with lawmakers about what could possibly be done. Would they model a state like Kansas or Colorado who have passed laws to specifically address these agreements? I think time will tell what California is going to do to address this, but I can tell you that they are having those conversations right now.
Katie Roosh, thank you very much, and thank you very much for this reporting.
Interesting. Go ahead, Derek. Go ahead.
Yeah, that should be unlawful. That should be unlawful. And unfortunately, it's something you only see for the most part in police work. I know when I was on the job, and I've been retired for 14 years now, with New York City Police Department, you were not permitted to retire if you were under investigation for anything. So, you know, you actually have to fill out it's called a resignation form to retire, and once you fill it out, then your record is checked. You know, similar to what officers do to other people, like a warrant check. And if you're being investigated for anything, you don't get what's called your good guy letter. If you don't get your good guy letter, you can't retire. So I think it's changed now, or I've been told that it's changed. And from what I understand, now you can retire from NYPD if you're under investigation. However, if you lose, you may lose your pension. And one of the other things is when you're still on the job, you're being investigated, normally you would be represented by a union attorney.
Mm-hmm.
If you retire, you're representing yourself. So you're gonna be deep in your pocket. But it's been that way with NYPD. I know in other departments it hasn't always been that way. You know, I know with Hempstead, I remember there was an incident where an officer got into a physical altercation with his wife, and he just retired. You couldn't do that for NYPD.
Okay. D?
Let me go back to my trope. Freedom ain't free. I always say that. Freedom ain't free. We fight for these rights. We fight for all of these rights. You got to understand, police officers are going to be afforded the same rights. There was a time when I was doing backgrounds, you couldn't go to McDonald's and ask what kind of employee the guy was. You couldn't do it. You asked, did he work from here to here? That's all the information you got. That has now trickled down to the police department, where you can't ask what this guy has done before he goes to another police department. That's when we fight for all these rights. We have to be careful. I'm a rights guy. I like to fight for rights, but I play the long game. Don't just try to get something for you. For instance, the place around here that I live has a no flag policy. Someone fought to have a flag. They were like, we won. But he doesn't realize Derek got his kind of flag. Jim got his kind of flag. JT got his kind of flag. And Jerry comes up with her kind of flag. Now he's upset that there are all these flags around. That's what you fought for. You got to be careful. I know it's something that you want to do. Everybody wants these freedoms. Everybody wants the ability not to have my past affect my future. This is what you're going to get. It's not an excuse. I don't like it. I don't like it. You couldn't smoke anything when I came on the state police. You couldn't look at it. You couldn't say, I didn't even know what to call it, marijuana, or you couldn't say it. Now you got people, well, how much have you, and where did you do it, and was it, it's just going so far that, so now what we're getting people affording themselves of these rights on law enforcement. Now the stakes are higher, right? It's not just the McDonald's job. It's not just the waitress job. Now we're talking about law enforcement officers. So I always say, and my trope is freedom is not free. You got to watch what you're fighting for, because what you're fighting for, he's going to have the right too. Now what do I do?
All right. Who do I have? I have AC and JT. AC, you found your hand, huh?
Yeah. It's working. Don't say nothing.
Oh, wait a minute. Oh, okay. Yeah, AC and JT.
Okay. I'm gonna speak to the other side of that. That being those employers who are looking for people, looking for other officers from other agencies. Now we know if they could avoid hiring someone who's a headache or a possible lawsuit, you would. But there are police departments who are looking for people who have done bad other places. And we see that, those departments that are 100 officers and only got 2 square miles to cover, and they write more tickets than the people in the town. They're looking for officers who are willing to do bad. And I think we talked about that a couple months ago. We saw one of those departments. We spoke about that, and they don't want that, because if you can disclose your information, they're obligated to use it or not hire those people.
Okay. All right. So, you're really just saying is that it's covering up.
Yes.
Yep.
Why you say that?
Go ahead, JT. I mean, JT. Yeah, because you're up
next time.
Go ahead.
I just got a question for Derek on that New York PD. If you're being investigated, you can't retire. Do they still put you on the clock?
You have to come to work. You have to come to work. Depending on what you're being investigated for, you may not be on patrol anymore. You may be on modified duty, but wherever they assign you, you have to come to work every day until it's over.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, the city has that kind of money, JT.
Yeah.
I mean, you're going to be doing something. You're not going to be just like sitting around doing nothing. Whether you're at the pound, the auto pound or something, you know, you'll be moving cars around or something. They'll find something for you to do.
Wow, that sucks.
All right, let me see. D, let's go with you got another one?
Audible. Yeah, I got.
I know you got a few.
I thought we were gonna take us to the end, so I had something else, but I'm good. The next one we'll go to how about we go to Florida? We gonna have enough time for that? Because we only got like 12
No, they're
minutes.
having a hurricane down there.
Yeah, Florida fires.
Yeah, the police chief.
The police chief. Yep. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Hold on a second. Let me
short notice.
stop. Let's get it here. Here we go. Wake up, you.
This will be our last one then.
This morning at 9:30 a.m., I terminated the services of the West Palm Beach Chief of Police, Frank Adderley. Recently, it was brought to my attention that several members of the top command staff of the department were allegedly involved in numerous...
We're not seeing anything, D.
You can't see anything?
No.
I'm looking at it playing. Hold on.
I can't go into specifics
Hold
today.
on.
There you go.
You see it now?
Oh, you just went back. You went out.
It was.
There we go. Seeing it now, right?
Thank you all for being here today on such short notice. This morning at 9:30 a.m., I terminated the services of the West Palm Beach Chief of Police, Frank Adderley. Recently, it was brought to my attention that several members of the top command staff of the department were allegedly involved in numerous financial improprieties within the department. Well, I can't go into specifics today, as there's an ongoing internal affairs investigation. What I can tell you is that I'm committed to ensuring that the West Palm Beach Police Department adheres to the highest standards. In my opinion, those standards simply were not being met. The primary responsibility of any police department is to protect and serve the community with integrity and professionalism. Maintaining public trust in law enforcement is paramount to the safety and well-being of our city. I remain deeply disturbed by the incident involving West Palm Beach police officers, which recently occurred in Boynton Beach. I'm also concerned about the recent press reports about behavior by 2 West Palm Beach police officers during a domestic violence call. These events demonstrate that the leadership of the police department has not aligned with its mission. Leadership starts at the top. The police chief is responsible for setting the tone and enforcing standards of professionalism and accountability within the department. The community must have confidence that the police department is operating effectively and fairly. Unfortunately, ongoing issues within the department have diminished that trust. Restoring that trust requires decisive action. My decision to terminate the services of the police chief is the first step toward rebuilding community confidence in law enforcement in this great city. It is time for the police department to turn a new page, which requires leadership to guide it in the right direction. So I reached out to the Palm Beach County Sheriff, who is actually a former West Palm Beach police chief himself, and asked him for assistance. I'm pleased to announce this morning that Tony Arahu, a colonel with the Sheriff's Office, is now the interim police chief of the city of West Palm Beach. Now, let me assure you, this is not the first step in the takeover by the sheriff of the West Palm Beach Police Department. That will not happen and is not being planned. Colonel Arahu is on loan to the city for the next few months while we conduct a nationwide search for a new permanent chief of police. He will wear a West Palm Beach police uniform, and he will report to me as the mayor of the city and not to the sheriff. The city will reimburse the sheriff for Colonel Arahu's salary during his tenure as interim police chief. And Colonel Arahu will not be a candidate for the permanent chief of police position. Colonel Arahu has over 40 years of law enforcement experience and is a colonel in the Palm Beach County Sheriff's Office, as I previously stated. I will continue to monitor this situation very closely and maintain transparency with the public. I will work closely with Tony, and I've asked him to also conduct a top-down review of the entire department and to fully cooperate with any investigations to make sure there is complete accountability. I will now turn over the podium to our new interim chief of police, Tony Arahu, to say a few words. Thank you.
Okay, let's stop it there so we don't run too long.
All right. I know the news says that he resigned, but the mayor says he fired him.
Right.
So a little misunderstanding there, but and I believe that's misunderstanding on the news and not the mayor. I'm sure the mayor knows exactly what he did, you know. So let me just go ahead with Rich. Rich?
Yeah, real quick, just basically, you know, when you're at that level of chief or higher ups in the department, it's basically a forced retirement, which is really a firing. You know, it's kind of an equal thing. We've been used to that, you know, and in lieu of prosecuting you, we're going to go ahead and let you retire. And that's been a common thing, you know, in law enforcement in many states and areas. But basically, he did fire him, but it's a forced retirement. So, you know, it's that gray area there.
Either that or they don't renew your contract and you're stuck in that position forever. We've seen that as well. But there are ways of getting rid of someone in that position that is civil servant, at least in New York. Mark, and then D.
Yeah, real quick, just so you know, we talked about it before on the panel. Florida is a right to work state, so they can just fire you.
Okay. Which is
so it's not like New York where you know you have civil service security. Down there you don't. So the guy could, you know, the mayor can fire you and that's it.
Right. So, we've seen it in North Carolina too, right? Right, Mark? North Carolina, they can they just fire you. You come in there and you're fired.
Right.
You know, no union backup, none of that stuff. You're just fired.
Yeah.
D?
Just really quick, I wanted to say quickly, everybody's got a boss. We have an idea that police officers do things and there's people sitting up in the office. They're accountable for what their officers do. And I know this is one that we reported. This happens all the time. This happens around this country. I've been trying to get a number of police agencies around the country, but police chiefs move positions all the time. Because and maybe our deputy chief can help us out. You're responsible. You wonder why some of those guys are what we call, they're so hard, they're stiff. Jim, please get into this too. They're hard. I'm responsible. You when you do things, people think they go to the chief and say, your guy did. He may have to put handcuffs on a guy, but he's got questions to answer. He's got failure. It's a big thing with us. With the state police, failure to supervise. What does that mean? Everything. What does that mean? Everything. What are they doing over there? I was on vacation. I come back. I'm still responsible. It doesn't work the way. And for people watching, and this is actually a good video. It doesn't work the way you think it does. I wasn't there. I didn't know. I haven't been able to say that for the last 24, 25 years of my working. I didn't know. Nobody told me. You were supposed to know. You were supposed to figure it out. Told me. You were supposed to know. Uh-oh, somebody's running Facebook in the background. Yeah, somebody. So so I just want to so people can understand we're all accountable. And maybe I felt it more than anybody else. I felt like my steps were being counted. So I had to, you gotta be on the right side of it, because then I got to answer questions as to why I didn't do it. So everybody's got a boss. That's all I wanted to say.
And listen, for those who may be new to our show and first time listening to our show, we have a few bosses on here. Kyle was a boss. Mark was a boss. Jim was a boss. Derek was a boss, and D was a boss. So we have a few supervisors here, different ranks, different levels of supervision. different parts of law enforcement as well. But understand leadership and supervisory. All right. Listen, I think that's about it for us. Unless someone have anything they want to close out with. Do we have? Kyle's gonna jump on us too. Do we have a good boy video?
I know I've always had one up, but I had it up before. Hold on, let me get it up quick. I'm gonna get it up really, really quick. Here we go.
Okay.
There we go.
Be careful how you say that, D.
Crazy.
Okay.
All right, yeah, here we go.
Getting pulled over for a minor traffic violation, this woman had no idea what surprise awaited her.
Are you aware of why I pulled you over today? Are you familiar with vehicle code 1739? Well, it's actually against the law to drive on a hot day without an ice cream cone.
In an unexpected and heartwarming twist, police officers in Halifax, Virginia took a unique approach to traffic enforcement by surprising drivers with ice cream cones instead of traffic tickets.
Well, you guys have a great day.
Have a good day. Have a good day, brother.
This guy showed a cop just how easily
I like that. I did see that one too. That's a good one. Thank you guys for joining us. We try to leave on a good note. We try. Sometimes we forget, and we got to hear it later on. But sometimes we do forget. But thank you so much for that. Thank you for taking time out of your schedule. I was just thinking the other day. I said to my wife, I said, next year we 5 years that Roll Call has been on the air. So we have to really think about what we're going to do next year. I mean, we got to start planning next year now and start thinking about it because time is really flying. But 5 years, this show came into existence right after the George Floyd killing. First Wednesday in June is when we started, because we started on Wednesdays, then we moved it to Thursdays. And that was because I usually have Bible study on Wednesdays. It was like a whole lot going on. But let's keep that in mind. Thank you guys for joining us each and every week on Facebook Live and now on YouTube as well. Thank you for joining us and being with us. I want to thank D, who works our technology and also helps me with hosting. Him and AC will help me with hosting. Y'all don't be surprised if you start seeing some of these other persons on this panel hosting. They keep telling me no, but I'm gonna put them on the spot one day and let them host. Because all they're doing is directing the conversation, and you go here, and D has all the videos that we need. He has a whole bunch of them, so you'll never run out of stuff. But thank you guys for joining us. Listen, don't forget Cops for Kamala. Jim Cannon is pushing that issue hard. We have 20-something days left. I don't know the exact amount of days before the election day. We want to promote this and push this each week. Join him on Facebook Live. I think he said TikTok. Join him on Cops for Kamala. Put your input in there. Ask him questions. Let's get involved and let everyone know that all cops are not against Kamala Harris at all. I believe everyone here is in support of her becoming the next president of these United States, and keep pushing, and get your family members involved as well. I'm meeting with some pastors on this week Saturday, and we're going to push this issue even further. All right. Anybody else with anything? Thank you, Cheech. We're praying for you. We're praying for you. We're praying for you. We're not forgetting about you. We're praying for Tyrone as well and Ursula on the loss of their family member. That's why Tyrone's probably not here, taking care of family business. JT in Orlando, we're still praying for you. And and Melbourne, and Melbourne's family, we're praying for them. And all of you, we're praying for you. Jerry, praying for you and your mother-in-law. We're praying for you. Let us pray. God our Father, we thank you for being God and being God all by yourself. We thank you for this program. And we pray to God that you will continue to bless us and continue to bless Cops for Kamala. Continue to bless Jim Ken as he promotes that program. And then, dear God, we ask you to bless our families and our loved ones. We're praying for all of those who were hit by the storm Helene first and then back hit with Milton. We pray to God that you will cover those persons down in Florida, Give them peace and understanding. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Amen.